Hey guys, welcome back. Today we will be learning about management by objective, which is a very important topic for BBA, for MBA, for BST in 12th standard as well as for the commerce optional in UPSC. This whole video will tell us everything that we need to know about management by objective. Let's get going. Management by objective is simply a joint planning as well as performance appraisal process. So why do we need a process like management by objective? So let us first see what was the current scenario when management by objective was introduced. They had traditional goal setting techniques at that time which had its own limitations. First of all, traditional goal setting was a top-down goal setting. That means the goal used to flow from the top management to the middle and the lower management. Hence, the implementation was more or less imposed. It was also subjective performance appraisal because the person who was setting the goal and the person who was implementing were two different entities, and the appraisal was done in order to examine whether the worker or the implementer followed the prescribed path, the path prescribed by the top management or not, rather than achievement of goals. So there was more like finding the person guilty rather than finding the reason behind the non-performance of the duty. So there were many cases of delayed performance appraisal, hence delayed corrective action. It also led to a phenomenon known as activity trap. Activity trap is simply getting so much involved in their day-to-day activities that they forget their main purpose or objective. It is like that you are foregoing your main goal in lieu of all these day-to-day activities. So for the solution of all these problems they suffered in traditional goal setting, they came up with an idea known as management by objective. So let us understand in detail what is management by objective. It is a participative goal setting. Participative means in which the subordinates and juniors, they sit together in order to decide the goal. There is negotiation, there is discussion, and then they reach to a conclusion about the goal setting. Then they choose a fine course of action for each other, and then they make the decision that is between the management and the subordinates, and hence their decision is then implemented. So in this management by objective, objectives are the focal point of performance. Means the objectives are the main point or the benchmark where they used to compare their performances. It is the focal point of performance at all levels of organization and at all levels of management. That means in all levels of planning, implementation and controlling. They are only goal oriented and their approach is completely objective. This amazing concept was given by Peter F. Drucker. It is a participation based management, and there are certain other words coming out from this particular concept like MBR, that means management by results, and SMART. We have learnt about SMART in goals, and SMART means we need to have SMART goals, which stands for specific, clear, measurable, quantifiable, achievable, practical, realistic, implementable and time specific goals. Okay, so let us define this. Management by objective, it is a process in which a subordinate and superior jointly identify the subordinate's performance goals. That means they jointly plan in terms of the results expected, and then they employ these steps, they implement these things in managing the organization, and then evaluate the subordinates' performance jointly. So till now you have learned that management by objective, it is joint planning plus joint implementation. This is the main word of management by objective, that is participative management. Okay. And one more thing you must remember, it aims at SMART goals. Okay, now let us go in detail by understanding the principles of management by objective. What are the principles of management by objective? First is cascading of organizational goal and objectives. What do you mean by cascading? Here see, if this is the organizational wider goal or wider objective, then it is being divided into divisional goals. this particular goal, the wider goal of suppose profitability, is divided into divisional, means the profitability in sale area, the efficiency in the production area, or the cost in the manufacturing area, etc. It is divided into smaller goals of divisions, then again more smaller goals of departments, and then finally individual objectives. That means every person in the organization have a specific objective, a clear, specific, quantifiable, time specific objective. It is participative decision making. We are learning from the very beginning that management by objective, it aims at sitting together and then make a decision together. If there is explicit time limit, we know, as is given in SMART goals. T stands for time specific. There is an objective for every member as well as a time period fixed for this. And what you have to keep into mind is that the time has to be reasonable. They need to have reasonable time and resources in order to complete the goal. Okay, next is performance evaluation and feedback, which is a very important portion of this management by objective. Here it means that they evaluate performance together. They sit together and take corrective action. And the focus is not here to find whether the subordinate has actually followed the prescribed path or not, which subordinate is guilty for this. They actually try to find out the reason behind the failure, the reason behind the below par performance, and try to cure the reason. Okay, this is not a blame game thing. They are not trying to find a person whom they can put all the blame on. They actually try to find the reason. So this sounds very interesting and something very dynamic kind of concept. Here goals are used as standards for performance review rather than as controls. They are particularly standards for performance review. That means the focus is on problem solving, okay, rather than blame fixation. So these were the principles. Now let us see the features of management by objective. Features here, see, it is a result-oriented philosophy. We all know that every member, every individual, department, every division, every organization has its own goal, and it is a goal-oriented, focus-oriented, it is objective-oriented philosophy. Next is joint goal setting. That also we have done. They sit together, they plan together, and they decide together. There is a participative decision making in this thing. There is joint performance appraisal. They sit together, they try to find out the reasons, and they try to help each other in actually find the solution to the problem rather than blaming the person, punishing the person for below par performance. Do you remember that where we punish for below par performance? It is under the differential piece wage plan given by F.W. Taylor, where we punish the worker for below par manufacturing. Fourth is this also acts as motivation. Why? Because here the subordinate is allowed to improve. So we are actually fulfilling his self-actualization need. We are trying to improve the subordinate, trying to help out the subordinate in doing the work more effectively and more efficiently. So it acts as a motivation strategy. His social needs, his esteem needs, as well as his psychological and self-actualization needs are taken care of. There is focus on key result areas. Yes, so we need to actually avoid activity trap where more focus is given on the day-to-day activities by forelooking the main goal of the organization. So here the focus is on key result areas, the key objectives of the organizations. So it is a systems approach. It is a systems approach which takes into consideration environment with it, and it goes step by step. I hope you understood what are the features of managing by objective, the definition, principles and features. Let's move how to do this amazing thing. Means you have learned why it is important and what it is. Let's see how to do this. This is very simple. You sit together, you set the overall objective and the action plan. Then you prepare your organization for MBO, for the implementation, for the focus-oriented implementation of their work, for an objective working style. You set individual objectives and the action plans. You sit together and plan together to set the individual objectives, specify what each person has to do. There is periodic review and adjustment, and the final appraisal where they sit together. Let's go in detail. So, setting over the objective and action plan. You understand, and here this overall objective of the organization is being understood and accepted by both superiors and subordinates, and these are set in participative and cascading manner. Then in detail they define what each individual has to do, what exactly to be done, how, steps and activities involved. Then there is a periodic review and adjustment, and finally the final appraisal where periodic and quantitative appraisal is made. It is quantitative appraisal as well as objective appraisal where the goal is on or focus is on the objective. It is short range as well as long range evaluation. I am sure this is pretty simple and you have actually got it what management by objective means. So it aims on joint planning, implementation and appraisal. Joint appraisal. Guys, in a very simple form, this can be explained like this. We have a supervisor or the superior and a subordinator. This supervisor and subordinate, they sit together and they jointly plan to set objectives, set standards and define and specify the actions or the steps to be taken. Then they individually act, they individually perform their own task, they implement their own task, they perform their task. Subordinate is performing their task, but he gets the support of the supervisor as and when required. Then they jointly control. They again sit together to jointly review the results, discuss the implementations and review MBO cycle. Means this review the whole management by objective cycle. I think this is the simplest way of understanding management by objective. So you are very clear with the benefits now, I am sure. Clearer goals, standards for control, objective appraisal, motivational force and better morale. These are self-explanatory. We have done it previously. So I am sure you have understood this. Next is limitation. Yes, this kind of concept can also have its own limitation. See, Peter F. Drucker, the person who actually introduced this concept to the world, he said, management by objectives works if you first think through your objectives. 90% of time you haven't. Actually, our starting point is objective, but if you do not have an objective, then this whole process will be futile. If you do not have objective, here we do not mean that objective per se, objective, many people have objectives, but not the right kind of objective, right goal setting. And Peter F. Drucker focuses on SMART goals. So, SMART goals means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and timely goals. So that has to be there in order to get the maximum benefit out of this concept. See, let's see the limitation in detail. First of all, subordinates problem. You in this particular concept, in this particular process, you try to indiscriminately force improvements on all, at all times. You want your subordinates to improve, to actually improve their performance, to be more efficient and more effective, and there can be subordinates which may find it as additional burden or they can find it as disturbing their course of action. So it can be one of the limitation. The most important one is the goal setting problem. If the goals are inflexible, that means they cannot be changed or adapted with the environment, or these are very rigid. There is overemphasis on quantification rather than quality, means you are compromising on quality and emphasizing more and more on quantity, and you actually focus on short-term results. If these are the problems with your goal, then MBO is sure to fail. Then there can be some organizational problems. That means your organization is using it just as a whip to control the employee performance. This supervisor or the superior is trying to exercise more and more control over the subordinate through this activity, then this will turn futile. So these were the limitations of MBO, and these are very much easily understandable, and you can easily get rid of it if you go exactly by what Peter F. Drucker recommended. Now, what are the prerequisites in order to overcome all these limitations? First, there has to be top level management commitments. Now, the management should commit in order to have a focused goal setting, as well as a goal-oriented implementation and objective performance appraisal, where the management is not towards blaming, but it is towards improving. We have to take care of necessary mechanics like manual of procedures. That everything has to be followed in a process. Prior training to our workers is essential in order to let them orient towards MBO philosophy. Adequate time and resources are required. If you are giving very less time for an activity to get completed, in that case, there are more chances for it to fail. So adequate time and resources are what is required. Timely feedback, because performance appraisal has to be done timely so that corrective action can be taken on time. You also have to take care of the politics in the organization. There are always some kind of politics happening in the organization. So whenever you are trying to bring something new in the organization, then you have to take care of this concept. So final word, and once again I'm repeating the same thing. Peter Drucker said that management by objective is just another tool. It is not the great cure for management inefficiency. And it works if you know the objective. 90% of the time you don't. Remember this thing, and I find this line very interesting, and I feel like writing it in all the answers where MBO is being asked. Okay guys, now let's understand MBO in a nutshell fastly. See, what is MBO? First of all, the very important thing, it is joint planning and joint performance appraisal, participative decision making by management. It is objective oriented. You here aim at having SMART goals, and then your focus is on the achievement of goal at all stages of management and at all times. Okay, the process is simply that you plan. First of all, you decide the organizational objectives, you set your organization for MBO, and then you find out the individual objectives, and then you do timely appraisal, performance appraisal is done, feedback is provided, and then this particular cycle continues. What are the advantages? There are numerous advantages, like you have specific, clearer goals. It is also help in motivating the employees. It also helps in having more clarity in the organization and in improving the organization, finding the reasons for the below par performance, etc., etc. So what are the advantages? We are done with what are the limitations now? Limitations is simply, we know that we need to have good goals. There can be subordinates problem. There can be organization problem when the top management is not committed. So prerequisite is that you need to have SMART goals. The management has to be committed, etc., etc. So this was MBO in a nutshell. Just remember two important words: joint planning and implementation, and one is goal, objective. That is the most important part. So guys, this was MBO completely, what you all need to know about MBO. So I'm done with this video. Coming up next will be evolution of organization theory. I hope you like the video. I hope it helps you in your preparation. So if you like the video, put the thumbs up button and comment on the link on this video. Share this to your friends and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. Stay healthy. Be happy.